We had a sexual assault and harassment training that we went through, and one of our sergeants got up on the table and stripped completely naked and danced and laughed at it. I mean, that's the kind of culture that I lived in and on a daily basis.
I think the way service members and veterans talk about this issue, there's this assumption that, you are harassed or assaulted because you are weak. Weakness somehow plays into, the entire makeup of why this is such a hard problem within the military. I mean, we're not trained to think of ourselves as weak.
Hearing my commander, hearing one of my senior members of my chain of command come to me and say, "You are not going to report this." That is devastating to any survivor, male, female, whatever.
Victims of sexual assault in the military are demanding reform.
The military criminal justice system is broken.
Several victims told the Senate committee this week that sexual assault and harassment in the U.S. Armed Forces is widespread, and too often commanders don't seem to care. Former Army Sergeant Rebecca Havrilla, she recounted being raped by another service member.
I removed myself from training and immediately sought out the assistance from an Army chaplain who told me, among other things, that the rape was God's will.
And it only got worse from there. Her commander decided not to prosecute the alleged rapist. Bridget McCoy says she was raped by her superior officer.
The year that I was raped, that same year I was raped again by another soldier in my unit. Another year, I was sexually harassed by a commissioned officer in my unit.
Petty Officer Brian Lewis was serving in the U.S. Navy when a commanding officer sexually assaulted him.
About 56% of estimated victims in our military are men. This is the part of the crisis that the Department of Defense does not acknowledge.
New Secretary of Defense Chuck Hagel has ordered a review of the military's handling of rape cases after an Air Force general threw out the aggravated assault conviction of a pilot. A bill has been introduced in Congress to strip military commanders of the power to overturn verdicts or to reduce sentences. And for more on this, we want to bring in our guest. We're joined by Rachel Natelson. She's the legal director for SWAN, that's the Service Women's Action Network. She's also the founder of the Veterans and Service Members Project at the Urban Justice Center. Rachel, thank you very much for a few minutes. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Rachel, in going through this, the numbers kind of boggle the mind. And I want to walk through them, and then you can take each one either individually or kind of connect the dots for us. Almost 20,000, the estimate is, service members sexually assaulted every year. 80% of them are never even reported for some of the reasons I'm sure we're going to discuss. And of those that are even reported, half even move forward from there. And those that even, actually go forward, only 8% of those even go to trial. And then those that get to trial, for the ones that they don't secure a conviction, sometimes they're returned to the very unit where they came from. And more than that, there's no even registry in the military. I think the general public, it would boggle the mind, A, how frequent this is, and even when it happens, how rarely justice ever seems to be done.
It's true, and in many ways, the problems that you find within the military justice system aren't really very far removed from the problems you find within the criminal justice system more broadly. That the criminal justice system really isn't designed to serve as a vehicle for empowering or really serving victims. In the military, there are factors, of course, that don't exist outside of the military. So there's a lot more potential in the military for retaliation against victims who report crimes. Well, we definitely hear a lot about victims being penalized for coming forward. And again, this is something unique to the military because there are lots of types of conduct that would not outside of the military constitute a crime or misconduct even. So for example, the fact that the person who's deciding on how to dispose of a case is not only the perpetrator's professional supervisor, but is also the victim's professional supervisor means that they have oversight of the victim's career prospects as well. And things like underage drinking and fraternization and dereliction of duty or abandoning your post, all of those things wouldn't have the same significance, or really wouldn't have any significance outside of the military. So when a victim comes forward, unlike coming forward, say, outside of the military, where you might say something that implicates yourself, you might say, I was drinking at the time of the offense, that wouldn't be cause for any kind of penalization of the victim, whereas in the military, that's considered an offense. So often you'll be in a situation where a commander will say, okay, well, we can prosecute the offender, but you've admitted that you're also guilty of misconduct, so we're going to prosecute you also. Is that what you want to happen? And it leads to a climate where there's a great deal of discomfort around reporting.
I would imagine, Rachel, for victims, especially female victims, for people who say, my gosh, well, why do so many keep quiet? This isn't just a job.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a very closed community. There's definitely a sense that you have to rely on the military, that the military is your family and the military is there to provide you with the resources you need. So what not many people know is that it is possible to report an offense to your local law enforcement agency, to go to your local police station and report an offense. But I have to imagine that not very many people think of that instinctively, that their instinct is to turn to police, to military police, because they perceive this as, well, I'm part of a community, I'm going to report this internally within my community.
Rachel, there was a sergeant who testified before the Senate and it shared her experiences, and she said in a perverse way, the rape was only the icing on the cake. It started when she first went into basic training here with all the innuendos, etc., that happened. When she even went to the chaplain on the base, he said it must be God's will what happened. The rapist actually posts the videos on a pornography website here. So for her, she made it very clear in the testimony that there wasn't a chilling fear for perpetrators to do this. They almost felt it was part of the culture. Do you get a sense, especially with the attention that we saw this week in Washington, that things are going to change? Things
really can't begin to change in a meaningful way until certain deterrents are put in place. Service members aren't allowed to bring claims, civil claims, against the military, either for being negligent or for discriminating against them based on sex, which is what sexual harassment and assault are regarded as under the law, a form of sex discrimination. So I think being able to actually hold the military as an employer and as an institution liable, that's what's going to make a difference in terms of creating a deterrent effect.
Rachel Natelson, thank you very much. I appreciate a few minutes.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, we'll be right back with RFL right after this.